In 1947, out in the New Mexico desert, a radio operator picks up a strange signal that makes his dog bark wildly. He connects more equipment to analyze it, but the sound makes no sense. He calls another station, which informs him the transmission is coming from Roswell. Grabbing his radio and dog, he drives off until he notices smoke and a bright light in the distance. Suddenly, his truck loses all power, and the dog jumps out, barking furiously. Following the noise, the operator discovers a scorched patch of ground with something unusual at the center. Just then, he hears a strange sound, panics, and stares at an intensely bright light. Fast forward to Antarctica in 2003, where a team of scientists spots an odd object buried 5 meters under the ice on a scanner. Unsure what to do with it, they arrange to send it to a NASA research station. Meanwhile, at the University of California, a student flirts with Julian during class. He ignores her, so she sends him a bold message, but Julian simply closes his laptop. Afterward, he meets with Dr. Bachman, who has just received a satellite photo of the object found in Antarctica. At first, they thought it might be the remains of a whale, but then they realized it was emitting a strange radio signal. Bachman hands Julian a CD with a recording for further study. Hours later, Julian becomes obsessed with uncovering its meaning. The signal is grouped in coded pulses, showing it isn't random. Using specialized software, he discovers the frequency is far stronger than anything naturally produced on Earth. Convinced of its importance, Julian takes his findings to Bachman and persuades him to secure him a spot on the research mission. Elsewhere, in a lab on the Fallen Islands, 2 other scientists also detect the strange signal. Unable to make sense of it, they forward it to an observatory in Arizona. There, another team notices the signal has been amplified and quickly passes it to NASA. A few days later, Julian boards a plane headed for Antarctica. A violent storm shakes the aircraft, making the landing dangerous as visibility is low. Thankfully, the base lights guide the pilots down, though the plane skids slightly before stopping. Once inside the station, Julian is welcomed by Nia, who shows him around and introduces him to the chief doctor. Soon, Julian is taken to see the mysterious object, still frozen but gradually melting at an abnormal rate. Following strict protocols, the team allows it to thaw naturally. Many, including Dr. Watt, believe it could be extraterrestrial. As Julian inspects the ice closely, he touches it, and a strange energy shoots through his arm, forcing him to relive recent memories. When he pulls away, his skin is red. At that moment, his ex, Dr. Kate, finds him. She doubts his ability to stay out of trouble, but still asks him not to interfere, as the project is vital to her. That night, Julian dreams of something glowing within the ice. Waking abruptly, he hears a strange sound, steps into the hall, and notices water on the floor along with a moving shadow. Suddenly, the same energy overwhelms him, giving him visions of the universe, the Roswell incident, and unknown beings. Moments later, he wakes again, unsure if it was real or just a dream. The next morning, Nia shows him their experiment with genetically modified crops that allows them to grow corn in Antarctica. The heated greenhouse is so warm that the team works lightly dressed. Julian notices Kate getting along with straw, sparking his jealousy. Meanwhile, in Washington, a government agent and the Secretary of Defense examine the files of Julian, Watt, and Bachman. They uncover that Julian once had a relationship with a student, Kate, that forced him to leave teaching for a while before working at NASA. They also compare the current signal to the one detected in 1947 and find they are identical. Back at the base, Julian spends long hours studying the signal but makes little headway. He is joined by the communications officer, Gizam, who explains how he first picked up the signal coming from the ice. Later at lunch, Julian meets the rest of the team, only for Straw to mock him for believing in extraterrestrials. Not long after, the base loses all communication, something not unusual during storms. Julian checks the excavation site and is shocked to see how quickly the ice has melted. The object is now almost fully exposed. Nia feels a strange sensation in her joints. But when she reaches out to touch the ice, Julian quickly warns her not to. The signal wasn't harmonic when Gizam first picked it up, which means 2 or more frequencies have now merged into one. Since Julian can't connect to the satellite, he convinces Gizam to bring him an antenna and hooks it up to his computer so he can keep analyzing the signal. The next morning, the whole building trembles for several minutes, and the mysterious object breaks free from its supports. The team rushes to check and finally gets a clear view of it, as most of the ice has melted away. It looks like nothing they've ever seen before. When Kate reaches out and touches it, she gets shocked. They decide it must be an igneous rock formed by an eruption, which means it's actually a meteorite. The signal resembles aircraft recovery data, so Julian concludes it's a black box. While hurrying back to his computer, he explains that the object must have fallen to Earth by accident and is now sending out a rescue signal. Using the data and his calculations, Julian manages to decode part of the message. They still can't make full sense of it, and Straw mocks him for failing to interpret everything. The group takes a break for food. Straw argues that the alien idea is nonsense, but the others lean toward Julian's explanation. At that moment, they're called back to maintenance because one of the crew has discovered a crack in the object. The group debates whether to open it. Kate worries about possible viruses or pathogens, but Straw reminds them the lab is sealed. And in the end, everyone agrees to open it the next morning. Meanwhile, Bachman is summoned to the White House to discuss troubling news about the strange object. Contact with the base remains impossible because of the weather, but the government has already partnered with a Russian submarine and sent it toward the base, carrying nuclear warheads. The following morning, the team connects the object to one of their machines with cables, triggering an electrical reaction that cancels out the discharges. The object still produces internal current, but they can now touch it safely. They bring in a saw and start cutting, uncovering a softer layer beneath the tough outer shell. Jig takes a sample and identifies it as a carbon alloy exposed to extreme heat. On Julian's computer, the message keeps shifting until it shows Nia that the object is attempting to communicate. When Nia compares it to the video game Mind Maze, Julian gets an idea to decode the message. After several tries, he finally translates it. Don't open it. Julian and Nia panic and race to the maintenance area, but by the time they arrive, it's too late. A bright surge of energy bursts out, and the man using the saw screams in agony. His body begins to melt before an explosion rips through the room, injuring several members and destroying much of the equipment. The blast also knocks out the generator, plunging the base into darkness until the emergency power comes on. Grabbing flashlights, the rest of the group heads to the bay to check the wounded. Everyone survives except the man with the saw, who dies burned. Looking more closely at the hole left in the object, they're stunned to see strange organic tissue. Pilot Tony pokes the membrane with a broomstick. It ignites, opening up a new hole. Through it, they finally see what's hidden inside the object, an alien frozen in ice. They can't tell if it's only asleep or if it's actually dead. Suddenly, Niella says she feels unwell as her nose starts bleeding. She falls to her knees, and her face begins to melt. Soon, other members of the team suffer the same fate, making the group realize that some sort of virus has escaped from the object and is killing them one after another. Terrified, the remaining survivors rush into a sealed room for safety. Through security cameras, they watch the alien. What explains that a disease sometimes slows down so it doesn't kill the host right away. This means there's a chance the survivors could already be infected. While they debate what to do, the alien suddenly opens its eyes. When the team looks back at the monitor, the creature has vanished from the bay. They decide to search for it and take the weapons brought by the pilots. With only flashlights, they move through the maintenance area. Straw panics when he feels something touch his back, but it's only Kate. Meanwhile, Grant continues searching, unaware that something is watching him from the distance. The presence retreats when Gizam swings his flashlight around. It then starts following Tony, who shouts when he sees movement in the shadows. While Julian climbs some boxes to reach another level of the base, Kate cuts the power in the unused rooms, causing Julian to fall. He quickly recovers and follows a strange sound until he comes across the alien, which appears frightened. Julian sets his flashlight on the floor and gently speaks to show he isn't a threat. The alien slowly comes forward, places its claws over the flashlight, and drains its energy until it shuts off. The creature then approaches Julian, carefully placing its hands on his head, sharing energy. When the alien's eyes open, Julian sees beautiful visions of the wider universe. At that moment, the others arrive, and Straw urges Tony to shoot. The bullet strikes the alien, and a burst of energy erupts from the wound, knocking Tony and Gizam down as they move closer. After releasing all its energy, the alien dies, its body fading away until nothing remains. Tony insists he thought the alien was attacking Julian, but Julian denies it, saying the touch felt safe. He explains that fear only came when Tony showed up. At that moment, the White House finally breaks through the storm and makes contact with the base. Bachman explains that they are aware of both the alien and the infection. Julian insists the virus hasn't left the base. Bachman then recalls the New Mexico incident and the deadly pathogen to which the aliens are immune. These beings communicate telepathically and have already wiped out all life on Mars. When Julian confirms the alien's death, the Secretary of Defense decides the only way to contain the virus is to destroy the base. He orders Bachman to lie, telling the survivors that help is coming, but Bachman refuses and only mentions a Russian submarine approaching. Julian understands the hidden meaning and asks how long they have. Bachman answers 3 hours. After the call, Straw grows angry and insists on leaving by plane, storm or not. Julian reminds him they could be infected and escaping would spread the virus outside. Straw argues that if they were really infected, they'd already be dead. As the submarine nears, the scientists run blood tests to prove they aren't infected. But Julian warns that the new virus could be microscopic and hidden within proteins. Straw takes this as a reason to leave, and Tony agrees, though the others don't. Kate's refusal frustrates Straw, and he insults her before trying to attack. But Julian reacts quickly and knocks him down with a punch. Suspecting Straw and Tony will still try to run, the group takes Tony's gun and leaves, resetting the lock codes. On the Russian submarine, the crew prepares to launch missiles in just 18 minutes. Back at the base, Kate and Julian finish securing the final lock and hold hands for comfort until the sound of gunfire rings out from the dining room. Straw and Tony have turned on Gizam, stabbing him in the neck with a fork. In the chaos, the gun discharges several times, hitting the walls, the ceiling, and even grazing Watt's shoulder. As Gizam collapses, Straw and Tony grab the gun together. When Julian and Kate rush back in, Straw fires again, this time wounding Kate's shoulder. Realizing Straw and Tony plan to escape through the ducts leading to the cornfield, Gizam tells Julian to follow and shoots open the locked doors. Once in the cornfield, the men's presence causes the plants to wither instantly, proving their infection. Tony hesitates, deciding he wants to stay, but Straw insists on leaving and points the gun at him. Julian suddenly appears at a window, and Straw fires, but Julian ducks in time. Seizing the moment, Tony lunges at Straw, trying to wrestle the gun away. After a fierce struggle, Straw gains the upper hand and shoots Tony. Hearing Julian close in, Straw runs deeper into the field, killing every plant around him, and keeps firing at Julian, but always misses. They both race into the ducts, moving quickly until they reach a massive staircase. The chase continues upward, with Straw firing but failing to hit his target. Finally reaching a hatch, Straw scrambles outside, only to be trapped in an energy vortex. Julian follows, but is stopped by an invisible barrier. He urges Straw to stay calm and breathe slowly, but Straw panics, gasping for air. The energy wraps around his body, and piece by piece, he disintegrates until nothing remains. The vortex then shifts toward Julian, showing him visions of distant worlds and a missile closing in. Julian realizes the vortex is actually an alien craft, here to retrieve the dead alien. He rushes back to Kate, Watt, and a scientist. Opening the front door, he leads the way as they spot two aliens inside the vortex. At first hesitant, the others soon follow. Watt and the scientist step in first, then Julian and Kate walk in hand. The ship absorbs them and takes off moments before the missile detonates, destroying the base in a massive explosion. Hours later, the government announces a cover story, claiming the base was destroyed by an experimental reactor and honoring the dead as fallen heroes. Meanwhile, the four survivors are already traveling through space.